Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out another FPV camera here from iFlight RC. This is called the RaceCam R1. You can see it's a mini style camera. It looks kind of like the Runcam Mini Swift. Pretty similar looking. I'll go over all the size and size comparisons here in a second. One big difference here is it's got a much larger lens. But first, let's go over quickly the stuff that you get in the box. Obviously you get a set of instructions, you get a bag here with some Allen wrenches and a bunch of like spacers, washers, and screws and nuts and stuff. This is give you a lot of options here for mounting, which is good. You get two different mounts here. This is an adapter from the mini size to like 26mm size, and then you have an actual mount for the mini size itself. So two different mounts. And I believe the Runcam Mini Swift comes with the same stuff. Here are the video cables and the OSD joystick controller. This is a little bit different here. I'll show you that in a second. It is a 4-pin connector, not a separate 2-pin connector for the joystick. And these are the two cables that come with it. And you can see here in the back, it just comes with a 4-pin connector. It's kind of like an HS1177 style connector with a single pin for your OSD. Voltage range is a little bit bigger here. It's 5 to 40 volts, not 5 to 36 volts. Then you get your ground and power. Compare this to the Runcam Swift Mini. Pretty much the same size. You can see here, just the connectors are different and the voltage ranges are different. And we can compare them here like this. It looks like the case is a little bit different on the front to back, and also the alignment of the holes is a little bit different. The 3 holes is a little bit more forward on the Runcam Mini Swift. The distance from the back to the front for the lens looks about the same. And if you look at the lenses, you can see they're obviously very different. I believe the standard lens on the Mini Swift is a 2.5mm lens, and then this the RaceCam has a 2.3mm lens, but it's a pretty wide lens there in the front, pretty big. Okay, I've got the camera connected up to a video transmitter and the joystick controller. We're going to look at the screen here and also the settings, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put the camera here off to my left, and we'll look at the field of view and we'll compare it to the Mini Swift and see how this compares to that. And I'll line this up here. Basically the bottom of the desk is right here, and we have the bookcase here off to the right, and so it looks like it's a fairly narrow field of view. Some of my other cameras I could definitely see the ceiling fan light up there. I'm not able to see that here. And if I have this lined up to the bookcase here on the right, normally I can see well past here to this red box over here, sometimes all the way over to the door to the far left. So this is a fairly conservative field of view. I'm guessing probably 100 degrees. I'm not sure what the spec is. You can check the website, but yeah, I'm a little surprised at how narrow the field of view is, considering it's a it's a 2.3mm lens. So yeah, it's we're expecting it to be a little bit wider than this. Okay, so I plugged in the Mini Swift, and we're going to see what the field of view is like on here. It's pretty similar actually. Vertical is about the same, and then horizontal looks to be about the same as well. Although I can get, it looks like it's a little bit wider on the horizontal because I can get this red box in play here. So yeah, it's interesting. It's vertical seems about the same, but maybe just a little bit more on the horizontal. Okay, so we'll get into the settings here, but first I want to point out the on-screen display here. You got a power on time, you got your pilot name and your battery voltage. Because there's no separate pin for the sensor, voltage sensor, it's just sensing what comes on the power line, the red line. So if you happen to power this through a PDB, you're going to get the 5 volts or 12 volts that's going to be coming from your PDB. So you should power this camera directly from a direct LiPo voltage. Okay, I put the lens cap on so you can see the settings better. If you short press the center button here, you get the standard menu here, and this looks pretty much the same as what you would see on most of the HS1177 style cameras, as well as most of the Runcam cameras. I don't really see any differences here, although the firmware might be a little bit different, so the numbers might not correlate. So you know, we obviously got a different lens here and such, So you might have to fiddle with the numbers. If you take the exact same numbers from a Runcam Swift and put them in here, they might not exactly match here. So just keep that in mind. And if you want to get into the settings here for the on-screen display, you're gonna, I believe you press the down button here. So you press and hold the down button, and then it brings up the menu here for the FPV setup. You can change your pilot name. You can turn all of these off. So I could go down here and turn all of these off, for example. Maybe I'll leave the time on there, and we're going to see everything else is off except for the time. So it's pretty similar to how a lot of the other cameras are controlled. And here's a little closer look at the image quality itself. It's a little hard to tell through the camera and obviously through a monitor, but it's fairly sharp, and the contrast looks pretty good. I think these default settings are not bad. The camera that I'm recording on is trying to focus on the screen, so you get a little bit of focus hunting there. That's the camera, that's the recording camera, not the FPV camera. But you can see it looks like everything looks pretty nice and sharp. Okay, so at this point I'm going to show you this camera in action. I have this on the Racer IX5, and I'll show you some footage from that camera. It's the same camera as this one, and I have basically the same settings, so we can see what this looks like in flight. So here's just some sample footage from the camera on a fairly bright day, a little bit overcast, there's some clouds. Not a whole lot to say about this camera. The exposure is correct on both the sky and the ground. Very easy to see, very clear. I do like the way the colors are saturated and looks very realistic. On a lot of default settings for CCD cameras, typically the sky is blown out, too much exposure or washed out, and it's exposed pretty well here, especially even when looking directly into the sun and obviously looking away from the sun. The color of the blue sky is natural looking, and same with the ground. All of these colors here look pretty much spot on with the way it looked like to me in reality. So at least this camera is doing this correctly on default settings. Other than that, not a whole lot to say about this. It's a typical 600 TV line CCD camera. Would prefer a larger field of view. Maybe a different lens might be useful in this, maybe like a 2.1 or 1.8. I'm not really sure if they're going to be coming out with additional lenses for this camera or not. They might be in the future, they might not be. As far as I know right now, they don't. So this would be the, I guess the 2.3 would be the lens that you would be stuck with at the time. But if you're fine with this field of view, then yeah, it's a good camera, I think. Put a link in the description if you guys want to check it out. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.